got a pair of sea swirls that we're going to put on the tank as well. These are the units that have the oscillating discharge nozzle. So they'll receive their water in here. This nozzle will move back and forth, creating a movement of water that's chaotic or random within the tank. And we'll have two of them on the tank, just like we did in the tank in Wyoming, to create that chaotic water movement. We're also going to incorporate a ball valve on one of the sides, the shorter side, just to help balance the flow. And then both of these will have union fittings here, so that if we ever have to remove the units, they're easily done so. So let's go ahead and put these together.
And once again, I've incorporated union fittings into the system. In this particular situation, it would allow us to remove one of the sea swirl units if it needed to be repaired or replaced.
So the discharge of that big circulation pump comes up from behind the tank into that T. It'll branch off. One side will come over here to that ball valve that allows us to balance the flow, this being the shorter side. Again, the union fitting in case we have to take it out. And here's the sea swirl clamped onto the edge of the glass tank. And you can see here the balance of that travels over to the second sea swirl. And so ultimately, it being set up the same way, you end up with two different flows moving back and forth inside the tank. And they can be against each other or in phase with each other. The whole point is to create some kind of random, chaotic water movement within the tank so that debris just simply doesn't settle. So now we need to go ahead and glue all that together.
So when using hard pipe to plumb an aquarium system, you have to have a starting point, and from there you progress to the next step, allowing you to accurately measure the length of pipe and fittings that you need for that particular situation. In this situation, our starting point was the water pump's discharge, which came up through the back side of the tank, rose up to that T on the back side of the tank. The T is a 1.5 inch T. At both opposite ends, it will restrict the flow down to 1 inch each, creating a pressure balance type situation. It then radiates outwards to elbows in each corner and then begins to direct itself towards the front of the tank. At the front corner of the tank are sea swirl units. These are motorized discharge nozzles. Note the large black box, which contains the motor and the gears. The water comes into the box. The gears turn the discharge nozzle that's attached to the inside of the box, and you get a sweeping motion 90 degrees back and forth. Coupled with a second unit, the two of these being out of phase with each other, do create for some very interesting and chaotic water flow patterns within the reef aquarium. The Euro-style open sump we got from Euro Reef, or what's now Reef Dynamics, and it seemed appropriate to get the protein skimmer from them as well, so we got the INS 250 model, which is the in-sump model, designed for tanks that are 250 gallons or larger. Our goal was to maximize the size of the protein skimmer, its footprint 12 inches by 14 inches, and this protein skimmer stands 30 inches tall. The in-sump designation means that not only does the protein skimmer, but the water pump that drives it is also sitting in the sump. This is not driven by an external water pump. And that in-sump water pump generates about 600 gallons an hour of air and water blown into the protein skimmer. And the advantage of the protein skimmers, through that heavy aeration, it will drive out organic compounds out of the water, thus decreasing what the biological system ultimately ends up converting to nutrients. In addition to selecting the appropriately sized protein skimmer, there are 3 focal points you need to pay attention to when positioning the protein skimmer inside the sump. One is access to the collection cup itself, to make it convenient and easy so you can remove it without fear of spilling the solution in the cup. 2 is the location of the water pump. It's going to require some attention. And 3, the adjustment for the foam level. In this case, it's a standpipe on the front side of the protein skimmer.
So we've gone through and finished the assembly of all the plumbing. You've got the filter circulation, the internal circulation. We've got the protein skimmer in place. Now we're going to go through and just double check those fittings before we put the water in.
And in quick review, we've got an internal overflow where the return line from the filter rises back up through. We've got a drain line coming off the bottom of that internal overflow. That water then drains down into an open style sump. This is where our protein skimmer is located. And there is a filter circulation pump that draws water from the filter and sending it to the tank, and an internal circulation water pump that circulates water within the tank itself. And that water is randomly directed within the tank with a pair of sea swirl oscillating discharge units. So far, everything seems to check out as it's supposed to. Now we just need to finish installing the refrigeration unit, which is outside. Rick is busily involved in getting that taken care of. So make it a point to come on back for part 6 as we begin to put the gravel and the water in the tank. And who knows, may have to end up dealing with a leak or two.